Today, I am going to reveal the secret of the ancients. I'm going to reveal the best edition of Dungeons & Dragons ever, and we'll do it right after the intro. Hi folks, and thanks for joining me. And today I wanted to talk about the best edition of Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games ever. And I want to look at it from both the player side and the game master or the dungeon master side. Now, of course, everything I say here, we're going to remember it's just my opinion. But I hope I have something to bring to the table and to bring to the discussion. So let's talk about, for players, what's the best edition of Dungeons & Dragons that you should be playing? The one that someone is willing to run for you at a convenient time. That's the best edition. We're all busy people. Whether you're a college student, a working adult, you have family or other responsibilities, we don't have unlimited time. That's just life. If the dungeon master is a nice person and they're giving you the chance to play, take it and make the best of it, even if you don't think it's your favorite edition or it's not an edition that you prefer. You may be an AD&D, a first edition AD&D diehard, but you had the chance to go play an elf or a hobbit in a 5e game. Why wouldn't you take it? Be open to that. And maybe you're really, really devoted to 5e, and I know a lot of people are. There's certainly enough videos about 5e out there on the YouTube. So, but your DM is really only comfortable running something a little simpler or BX game. Go. Have a blast. Yeah, maybe everything won't be exactly the way you're used to, but the DM will tell you what to roll. There's really nothing sacred about any edition. I think I've said this before. These are game books. They're not catechisms. Now, as a side note, I think in a way this applies to genre as well. You may love your weekly fantasy game, but the GM may really want to run a sci-fi game, a horror game, or a superhero game, and I sometimes need to do that. So, go and give it a chance. Now, I'm not saying that someone has to play every single game. Maybe the personalities of a particular group just don't work for you. That's fine. It may be the game master or there's other players that you don't want to play with. You don't have to be in that situation. Maybe it's a certain genre that just absolutely doesn't work. Maybe you just don't do horror for whatever reason. Or you just don't do superheroes for whatever reason. You just can't get into them. That's fine. You don't have to play in every single game or every single genre. But if you can and you're open to it, give it a shot. What have you lost? A few hours, and you haven't really lost anything. You had a new experience. Give it a try. And please also, players, this is sort of my impassioned plea, be open to other genres. I know myself as a dungeon master, I can't run a dungeon week after week after week after week. Sometimes I have to try to break it up, and sometimes just running a night of Star Wars or Star Trek really gives me a needed break and gives me a chance to flex some other muscles in my mind. Now, game masters or dungeon masters, what's the best edition for you? It's the one you're comfortable running and that you can find a group and find players for. That's just the bottom line. Now, it's easier than ever to find players because of online games and Roll20. You can find players probably for most editions, even 4th edition, which doesn't get a lot of love these days. I'm sure there's groups and players out there for any edition. So you need to be running a system that you're comfortable for because you have to adjudicate it. You have to be able to, on the fly, say, okay, give me this kind of roll, give me that kind of roll, and here's what's going to happen when I see that number. However, GMs, you really should be open to new things too. I don't want to just say that, only players have to give a little bit. GMs have to give a little bit too. So I run mostly simpler and old school games. It's just what I prefer. Maybe you're an OSR GM and you love the 2-hit charts or THAC0, but really, is that so sacred that it has to be that way? Could you consider switching over to Ascending Armor class? It's easier for players in a lot of ways, and it's been around for 22 years, so it's not like, the latest thing on the block that's going to go away. So it's small accommodations like this, even if you want to run a simpler or an old school game, some small accommodations like this that if we make might help attract more players or make it easier for players. And if you're making it easier on players, they're likely to come back. And even some old school games like Basic Fantasy and I believe Castles and Crusade, they do use the Ascending Armor class. So you could still run something in your familiar vein or your familiar milieu, but making some small changes to accommodate players. Now, 5e GMs and even down to 3e, you're not off the hook either. All right? Maybe you need to be open to simplifying things, to make things easier for players from older editions, for new players, or especially if you're playing online. Now, I hear it over and over again. 5e is simple. Well, 5e may be simpler than 3rd edition and some things in 3rd edition, but if you look at the 5e character sheet, it's not simple. Now, maybe you can make that argument for 1e, 2, and AD&D and things like that. I'm not going to wade into that thing. I'm just saying that in general, it can be a little overwhelming for new players. You have proficiencies, you have skills, you have maybe feats, you have tools, and you can use this in certain situations. You know, is there a way that you could cut out some of that, simplify it, or combine some things? Or do the math on the Dungeon Master's end? Just tell the player, okay, just roll a dice and add 4 to it, and we'll be fine for there. You know, anything that you can do to make it easier on the players, it's going to make it the better edition, even if it's not exactly rules as written. So in summary, obviously, you know, the title of this, and it's kind of clickbait maybe. There is no one best edition. You have to look at things like availability. If a game is available, if the people are decent and it's not a genre or there's not problems where you're absolutely going to hate it, go. That's the best edition for this afternoon. It doesn't have to be the best edition for overall and for all time. There's no real such thing. Go, have a good time. Go, you know, whether it's online or at a game store or a friend's house. And as a GM, you know, make sure you're giving your players a great time, even if that means bending a little bit from rules as written, no matter what edition you're most comfortable running. It's so important to give them a great time and not necessarily to be a rules purist. You might want to simplify 5e for certain players in certain situations. I think certainly online would be one case where some simplification could be in order. And you may need to adjust an OSR game to make it a little more like modern mechanics. It doesn't matter. You know, just to kind of wrap up, and this is kind of philosophical maybe, it's a rough world out there. I bet you have problems at work. I bet you have family concerns. I do. I'm not going to talk about them here, but we all have problems and things that weigh us down and responsibilities, day to day. And games are this great, refuge or therapy. And even I think more importantly, they're a great outlet for our creativity. They let us bring something out that we can't in other ways or we can't in our ordinary lives. Our gaming time is so short and so precious. It's just so short it's not worth arguing over different editions. Whether it's roll over, whether it's roll under, who cares? As a player or a game master or a dungeon master, make your next session as fun as you can, enjoy the people you're with, and you're doing it right. And if you'd like to check out the titles from Sharp Mountain Games, you can see our 2 in-print adventures, The Dwarven Pickup Truck and The Sky Tree, at Amazon, Lulu, or drivethrurpg. You can also check out our digital titles, which include adventures, map packs, new character classes, and character cards, and they're at drivethrurpg or the Roll20 Marketplace. Wherever you like to shop, odds are that we're there. So you know what to do. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All the links to our products are in the description below. And thanks, and we hope to see you again soon.